SummerSlam 2025, despite its magnitude and star power, left fans questioning the direction of WWE's biggest summer event. While Roman Reigns and John Cena delivered iconic moments, much of the rest of the card felt hollow and lacked emotional or narrative weight. This disappointment stems not only from weak storytelling, but also poor pacing, irrelevant feuds, forced celebrity integrations, and questionable creative decisions that undermined genuine fan investment. The first glaring issue was the two-night format, which diluted the excitement. Unlike WrestleMania, which benefits from 2 nights due to an overwhelming number of high-stakes storylines, SummerSlam 2025 didn't carry the narrative gravity to justify such expansion. Night 1 felt particularly overextended, with several matches dragging on or serving no real purpose beyond filling time. Audiences expect concise, impactful action, and instead were served a bloated presentation lacking cohesive flow. Much criticism surrounds the decision to book repeat matches with minimal build. The Sami Zayn versus Karrion Kross feud, for instance, failed to ignite interest. Their rivalry was neither deeply personal nor particularly fresh, having already occurred on weekly television with little evolution. Rather than using the grand stage of SummerSlam to elevate new talent or deepen compelling arcs, this match exemplified WWE's tendency to recycle matchups with stale outcomes. Another underwhelming contest was the women's tag team title match, which, despite featuring talented performers, was given barely 5 minutes. The lack of build-up and runtime communicated that WWE had no real investment in the division. These rushed matches reinforced the perception that many segments existed to fill airtime rather than to tell meaningful stories or spotlight deserving wrestlers. In turn, viewers found it hard to care about what they were seeing. Then came the overbooked use of celebrity appearances, most notably Jelly Roll. While celebrity involvement has long been a WWE tradition, these appearances are effective only when they add value or are logically tied to ongoing narratives. Jelly Roll's inclusion felt like a marketing decision rather than a storytelling device, and his segment contributed nothing memorable or coherent to the event. It took time away from in-ring talent who needed that spotlight. The tag team division was also notably directionless. The Street Profits versus Judgment Day match lacked context or stakes. Neither team was involved in an emotionally charged feud, and the outcome did not impact the division's hierarchy. A major event should be the climax of weeks of tension and character development. Here it felt more like an exhibition match from a house show rather than a pivotal turning point in any career. Even the match featuring CM Punk, a returning legend, faltered due to its abrupt resolution. Fans were thrilled when Punk defeated Gunther in a brutal, compelling bout, only for Seth Rollins to return and cash in the Money in the Bank briefcase immediately. This bait and switch frustrated viewers. It devalued Punk's win, made Gunther's title reign end unceremoniously, and overshadowed what could have been a career-defining moment. While surprise moments can work, this one lacked payoff and coherence. The build to most of these matches also played a part in why the show felt boring. Take, for example, the feud between LA Knight and Grayson Waller. Despite both being capable on the mic, their feud lacked fire or stakes. Knight, once seen as a future breakout star, has lost much of his momentum due to inconsistent booking. Their segment at SummerSlam was forgettable, relying on catchphrases rather than substance. WWE also leaned heavily into promoting its upcoming Netflix documentary, WWE Unreal, even incorporating references during live segments. This shattered kayfabe and took viewers out of the moment. The use of live promotion during matches made the show feel like a commercial rather than a genuine sports entertainment event. This kind of corporate synergy may satisfy marketing departments, but it undermines fan immersion and storytelling credibility. Mid-card titles also suffered from a lack of prestige. The Intercontinental and United States Championships, traditionally tools to elevate rising talent, were barely mentioned or defended with urgency. Title matches that should elevate wrestlers like Bronson Reed, Chad Gable, or Santos Escobar were either rushed or omitted entirely. If WWE doesn't treat these championships as meaningful, fans won't either, and it contributes to an overall feeling of irrelevance. There's also the issue of pacing. Multiple matches were placed back-to-back without adequate tonal variation, leaving the crowd exhausted. For instance, having 2 gimmick-heavy matches in succession with no breather caused audience fatigue. Part of the beauty of a well-structured PPV is its emotional cadence, shifting between drama, action, comedy, and spectacle. SummerSlam's match order lacked that finesse, causing even decent performances to be lost in the noise. The commentary throughout the weekend did little to elevate proceedings. Michael Cole and Corey Graves attempted to inject enthusiasm, but they were often tasked with selling matches that had no weight. Commentary is most effective when it complements ongoing stories, but here, it felt as though the team was grasping for importance in segments that had none. Forced enthusiasm for lukewarm encounters only made the disparity more apparent. Night 2 had marginally better pacing, thanks primarily to the final match between Cena and Rhodes. Yet even that was not immune to WWE's reliance on surprise over substance. Cena's loss was meant to symbolize passing the torch, but Brock Lesnar's post-match attack shifted focus away from Rhodes and back onto a part-timer. This diluted Rhodes' moment and rehashed the same formula WWE has relied on for years. Nostalgia over innovation. Part of the boredom stems from the predictability of outcomes. SummerSlam 2025 had very few genuine upsets. When most fans can accurately guess the result of 80% of the matches, the thrill disappears. Suspense is crucial in wrestling, and predictable booking leads to disengagement. WWE must learn to surprise fans with outcomes that still make sense narratively, rather than sticking rigidly to obvious trajectories. Production values were, as always, polished, but even flashy visuals can't hide poor creative decisions. Long video packages recapping feuds that lacked substance did little to hype matches. It felt like WWE was trying to convince fans that certain rivalries were important when the actual weekly programming didn't support that narrative. Viewers are too savvy now to be fooled by slick editing alone. Furthermore, the failure to utilize NXT talent on such a major stage was a missed opportunity. With the success of talents like Carmelo Hayes and Tiffany Stratton in developmental, many fans hoped for meaningful call-ups or surprise showcases. Instead, WWE doubled down on overused main roster talents whose stories had run dry. SummerSlam could have been a platform for the future. Instead, it leaned on the past. The crowd reactions throughout the 2 nights were tepid for a reason. Even in one of WWE's largest venues, the energy didn't match the environment. Fans responded to big names, but many undercard matches elicited polite applause rather than raucous excitement. This wasn't due to the crowd being disinterested. It was because the content gave them little reason to be emotionally invested. Engagement must be earned through storytelling, not assumed by location alone. There's also concern about over-reliance on part-timers and legends. SummerSlam's biggest pop came for Lesnar, but that reaction came at the expense of full-time performers. WWE cannot build long-term equity in its roster if every major event hinges on the return of older stars. It sends a message that current talent isn't enough to carry the company, which harms morale and perception. The post-match segments were also disappointing. Apart from Lesnar's attack, few segments created buzz or left cliffhangers for the next Raw or SmackDown. SummerSlam should function not only as a culmination, but also as a launching pad. In 2025, it failed to generate must-see follow-ups. Without anticipation for what comes next, the afterglow of the event fades fast. The use of authority figures and on-screen decision-makers has become confusing. Triple H's rare appearance did little to clarify ongoing narratives, and Adam Pearce's presence felt ceremonial rather than impactful. When the people in charge aren't driving stories or making tough calls, their presence feels unnecessary. WWE needs strong on-screen leadership to create stakes and consequences. Even the hardcore wrestling fans found little to cling to. Technical showcases were minimal, and the few work-rate heavy matches were drowned out by poor commentary or lack of context. Gunther vs. Punk could have been a show stealer under better circumstances, but its result robbed it of lasting impact. WWE must realize that work rate still matters to a large portion of its audience, and neglecting it leads to dissatisfaction. Several superstars were also miscast or misused. Damian Priest, despite holding the World Heavyweight Championship in recent months, was relegated to an unimportant tag match. His booking suffered greatly, and fans questioned why WWE failed to capitalize on his momentum. A pay-per-view like SummerSlam should be about showcasing rising stars in main event roles, not benching them in meaningless pairings. The pre-show also failed to excite. While traditionally less essential, a strong pre-show can set the tone for the night. In this case, it featured no notable match or shocking announcement. WWE missed the chance to preview long-term plans or introduce new rivalries. When the event opens on a dull note, it becomes harder to regain audience interest later. The music and theme choices for the event were uninspired. WWE often uses catchy, high-energy tracks to create a memorable atmosphere. This year's selection felt corporate and bland, lacking the personality that made previous SummerSlams iconic. While minor, these aesthetic details contribute to the overall vibe and can subtly influence how audiences remember an event. Furthermore, there was a distinct lack of international representation. WWE claims to be a global brand, yet most of the card featured American or overly familiar stars. Incorporating international talents like Ilya Dragunov or Meiko Satomura could have added diversity and appeal.